Hey YouTube, how's it going? And welcome back to another Fallout 76 guide. Today we are looking at mutations. I'm going to be talking about mutations in this game because they can give you negative and positive effects in this game for your character, which can be very beneficial for the end game. So there's two ways that you can actually get mutations in Fallout 76. The first way is from radiation. If you go to a pool of water and just stay in it for a long period of time, you will end up getting a bunch of radiation, which eventually you will end up getting a mutation. The one thing about this is that you can't actually pick the mutation you get. So you could get a mutation that you do not want, which is not what you want for the end game. You want to specifically pick the mutations for endgame so you can build it around your character. Like you want bird bones or be a carnivore or herbivore, whichever one you want to be able to pick. So that is one way of getting mutations. The other way is from buying them. Now you can buy them from player vendors, which you can get for very cheap. I think most people sell them for 400 caps each, which is a very good price. The other way to get them is from Modus from the Enclave Bunker. So once you get to Whitesprings Bunker, it is all the way southeast of the map. You will find the Whitesprings Bunker. When you spawn in, you're going to be going past this big door, down the elevator. And when you get down the elevator, you're going to be following my character on this route to the right. And we're going to be looking for the science wing. So you're just going to go down these stairs. You're going to be going all the way over and you'll see the science ring right here. You're going to follow this route right now to the right through the genetics lab. And you're going to see these blue terminals right here with Modus's face on it. Once you go over to trade, you will now be able to buy certain mutations from them and then the recipes for these mutations. As you can see, these mutations are not cheap at all. They are very expensive. And I would recommend you just going to other players' camps and just buying them there. Because as I said, most of the community sells them for 400 caps each. Where if you go to Modus, you'd be spending a lot of caps on these mutations. As I said earlier, mutations give you positive but also negative effects on your character. Now, there is certain perk cards that you will need for using mutations. This is like an end game kind of like, thing to build your character. So when you're around level 50, you will unlock some of the perk cards like Class Freak or Starstreams. Now, Starstreams is used for the end game mutations in the way that if you are, like, let's say fighting enemies that give you radiation poisoning, you will be able to cure yourself without getting rid of your mutations, because if you use a Radaway, when you have mutations without this perk card on, you will lose your mutations. So Starstreams is a must-have for your character no matter what. You will always need to have it on to stop yourself from losing your mutations. Now, let's say you did end up getting a mutation that you didn't want. Obviously, if you take off Starstreams and use Radaway, you will get rid of that mutation, and that is the best way to get rid of the mutations. So, if you don't want a certain mutation, just take off this card, use Radaway, all your mutations will be gone, so you'll be able to set up your character the way you want it. Now, Class Freak for the end game mutations is a must-have. You really do need this for the end game because it will reduce by 75% at level 3 how much the negative effects affect you. So, for example, if I go into this chemistry station and go down to the mutations, you will see that adrenaline reaction serum, you do more damage the lower your health is, but the negative on that is your max health is reduced. Now, with Class Freak, your negative effect on that is actually reduced by 75%. So you will end up with more health than you would without Class Freak. So Class Freak is definitely a must-have for the end game, and I would highly recommend using it. If you do not have it, your health is going to be more reduced, which is not good, but the positive does not get affected whatsoever. So if you want to get rid of them negative effects as much as possible, you will have to put on Class Freak. Now, There is something else you can do, but it is very expensive and I would not recommend it at all because it costs a lot of materials to do. But let's say you do use adrenaline reaction, right? You do more damage the lower your health is, and your max health is reduced. But if you use this serum when you already have that serum on your character, the negative effect goes away for a certain amount of time. So you can completely get rid of that negative effect altogether, but it's not permanent. You will have to reapply the serum every so often. So it is a very expensive thing to do. I would not recommend it because, like, as I said, you need flux and all of that for these serums, and flux is not an easy thing to come by. So I would not recommend doing it that way. But if you do play this game a lot and you do have the materials, by all means go ahead. But that is the only way to get rid of that negative effect altogether. So in total, there is 19 different mutations in this game that give you very positive effects, but also will give you negative effects. As I said, Class Freak is just good to have on, but because the negative effects will not affect you that much. But the mutations that you can get is Adrenaline Reaction, Bird Bones, Carnivore, Charmeleon, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Electrically Charged, Empath, Grounded, Healing Factor, Herbivore, Herd Mentality, Marsupial, Plague Walker, Scaly Skin, Speed Demon, Talons, Twisted Muscles, and Unstable Isotope. Now, it's basically up to you on what mutations you want to use. For me, as a sneak commando build, I use Adrenaline Reaction, Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Herbivore, Herd Mentality, Marsupial, Scaly Skin, and Speed Demon. This is these are the mutations that I use for my build. You don't have to go with what I'm using right now. Like, there's so many things there that you do not need for a sneak commando. Like Egghead, I only use Egghead to get that extra intelligence because I try and get as much XP as possible while also doing as much damage as possible. So Egghead is just good for the extra intelligence. I also get minus, like, strength and endurance. Because of Class Freak, though, it's not as hurtful. So I only get -1 endurance and -1 strength, which is amazing. When it comes to Herbivore and Carnivore, you can only choose one. Herbivore makes it that when you eat veggies, you get double the effects, whereas Carnivore, if you eat meat, you get double effects on that. But you cannot have both of those mutations on your character. It's either one or the other. For me, I would choose Herbivore, but others do prefer Carnivore, so that choice is definitely up to you, but you cannot have both of them on your character. So now I'm going to go through each one of the serums and try and guide you on which you should pick and what you shouldn't. It's definitely up to you for your character building, but I'm just going to go from what I experienced and what I think is beneficial for what kind of build you will be going for. So for Adrenaline Reaction, you do more damage the lower your health is, your maxed health is reduced. So I do think Adrenaline Reaction is very good for a bloody build, because the bloody build is going to have low health. The lower your health, the more damage you do. So Adrenaline Reaction is very useful for that. Bird Bones boosts sneak and increase AP, reduces strength and increases risk of limb damage. So the boost in sneak and increases AP is very good for a sneak build, because you will be sneaking as much as possible, and you will also be using VATS a good bit. So the more AP you have, the longer you can be in VATS. So Bird Bones is just very good for that. As I just said, a Carnivore and Herbivore, you're going to have to pick on which one you want to choose. Carnivore, you eat meat, you get double the effects, where Herbivore, you eat veggies, you get double the effects. So it's definitely up to you. Go and look at the food buffs, see which one you want more. For me, I picked a Herbivore because I am a crit build, and you can eat blight soup, which is a veggie food, and I get 50% more crit damage. So for me, Herbivore is beneficial, but for you, Carnivore might be beneficial. Chameleon is you are invisible if unarmored and standing still. Now, this mutation does work with weightless armor, because weightless armor counts as unarmored for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was a buff given to the armor, But if you wear that weightless armor, you are able to use this mutation and be invisible while standing still. Very good serum if you're a sneak build and you don't want to run around with armor, or if you have the weightless armor, it's just very good for that. Eagle-eyed, your perception of VATS critical damage are increased, but your strength is reduced. So your perception of VATS critical damage is increased. Very good for like a sneak commando build, a rifleman build, some along those lines, because you will want the increased perception, and your VATS critical damage, because you will be using VATS, is increased. So it's just very good for that. Eagle Eyes is a must have for those kind of builds. Now, as I was saying earlier, Egghead increases your intelligence, but your strength and endurance are reduced. So I use this just to get the extra 12% in XP. It's not a must-have, it's just very good to have if you are farming XP. Electrically charged, I struggle to say that name so much. Taking melee damage may trigger a shocked effect. The damage this damages you and your foes. So this is basically used for any build you want, but mainly melee builds, because melee builds will be, you know, in front of the enemies the most. And when you take melee damage, you may trigger a shocked effect. The downside of this is that it does damage you and your foes. So it damages your foes, yeah, grand, but it does damage you as well. So I don't know if this is like a must-have for any sort of build, but it's definitely like, you know, it's a mutation in the game. You might like it, you might not, but by all means, if you wanted to go and use it. Now, the Empath Serum. You take increased damage, but your teammates take decreased damage. This is very good for power armor builds, because power armor builds can take a lot of damage without dying. And if you are a team player, you will be using this because, you know, you will take more damage, but your teammates will take less damage. So it's just a very good serum to have. You're like a power armor build and you're there for the team. Like, you know, you want to take the brunt of the damage. But, you know, that's definitely up to you. If you want to sacrifice your health for others, by all means, go for it. Grounded Serum. Your energy resistance increases. Damage output from your energy weapons is reduced. So Grounded Serum, you know, if you don't use energy weapons, by all means, this is a perfect serum to have. Like, it's a very good mutation. But like as it says, your energy resistance is increased, but if you do use energy weapons like an energy Gatling gun or something like that, you will be doing less damage. So this is definitely like, you know, you're going to have to think about it. If you don't use energy weapons, this is a perfect perk. Healing Factor. Your health will regenerate if you are not starving. The effectiveness of stim packs and your chems is reduced. For me, this serum, like this mutation right here, is basically worthless, because, like, you know, your health will regenerate if you are not starving. You need to eat in the game. I rarely eat in this game. Like, you do get a buff for eating, but I rarely do it. And the fact that, like, you know, if I do have this mutation on me, stim packs and chems are like, you know, the effectiveness are reduced. I don't think so. Like, this is just, for me, a very bad mutation to have. I would not recommend this for any sort of build. Now we're on the Herbivore. I already went through this several times. You know, you can only pick one Herbivore or Carnivore. It's definitely up to you. It gives you double the effects if you're a Herbivore. It gives you double the effects if you're a Carnivore. It's just up to you. Pick which one that you want to go with. So Herd Mentality. When your teammates are nearby, all specials increase. When your teammates are not nearby, all specials are reduced. The wording of this mutation right here is actually very strange, because that's not exactly how herd mentality works. So basically, herd mentality works in the way that when you're on a team, your special is increased, but if you're playing solo and you're not on a team, your special is reduced. So the wording of this definitely needs to be changed. Like, I don't know why it still says, like, you know, says what it says, because that is not what it does at all. Basically, if you go into a game and you go straight onto a team, people don't even need to be on your team for this perk card to like this mutation to work. All you have to do is go into a team and you will get the increase in your special. but if you're not on a team, you get the decrease. So I don't know why why it says something that it doesn't actually do, but yeah, just remember, if you have a herd mentality, just always create a team. It doesn't matter if people are on your team or not, the mutation still works. So yeah. Marsupial, I would say Marsupial is the must-have mutation out of them all. Have you ever ran around the wasteland and you've seen people jump very high? Marsupial is the reason why. Your carry rate, capacity, and jump height are increased, but your intelligence is reduced. With Class Freak, your intelligence just -1. It's not a big, like, it's not a bad thing at all. But your carry capacity is increased and your jump height is increased. So I would highly recommend, no matter what build you are, melee, shotgunner, commando, it does not matter. Marsupial is a must-have just to get to them hard to reach places, and it's just overall the one mutation that you would need. Plague Walker, you have a poison aura which grows stronger with each disease you contract. Once again, I do feel like this is more of a melee kind of like mutation, like it's a melee mutation. You have a poison aura, so which means that, like, the closer enemies are to you, the more, like, they're going to get poisoned. But with each disease you get, it grows stronger. The bad thing about that is diseases actually give you a negative effect on your character. Like, it might, give you less AP or that. So, like, the diseases isn't something that you really want on your build. But by all means, if that is what you want to build into, go ahead. Scaly skin. Your damage and energy resistance are increased, your AP is reduced. So I do feel like this is good for, let's say, a power build or a melee build. Your damage and energy resistance are increased because you won't be really using VATS as a heavy build or as a melee build. Like, you'd be just going over whacking them with your melee weapon or using, like, a minigun or something like that. You wouldn't be in your VATS as much, which means you don't really need the AP. So by all means, scaly skin is just a very good thing to have if you are building into melee or a tank build. Speed Demon. Your movement speed and reload speed are increased. You require more food and water to stay alive. Now, this mutation right here is not too, like, it's a very good mutation to have. Your movement speed is increased, so you'd be running around faster. Your reload is also increased, so if you're a heavy build and you're using a minigun, having that extra speed in reload is very good. Or if you're a commando build and you want to get as much damage out as possible, having that reload speed is very good. You require more food and water to stay alive. The thing about that is that actually changed later, like around the Wastelanders like update, where food and water does not drain your health anymore. So the negative on this on Speed Demon is not really there anymore, so you don't really need to worry about that. So I would highly recommend Speed Demon as a perk if you are using guns in this game and you just need to get that faster reload off. Talons, your unarmed damage and bleed effects are increased, your agility is reduced. This is a melee build, like, perk. Your unarmed damage and bleed effects are increased, so you'd be needing to use like unarmed weapons. As far as I know, with a melee build, like, using a melee weapon, you still need to take off the melee weapon to get your extra damage. I'm not gonna say that I'm 100% correct on that, but as far as I know, unarmed definitely means, like, not using a weapon. So yeah, Talons is mainly used for a melee build. Twisted Muscles, your melee damage and chance to cripple are increased, the accuracy of your guns is reduced. So this is more of a melee build. Your melee damage and chance to cripple are increased. You will not be using this on any other build because your accuracy of guns is reduced. So Twisted Muscles is a melee build mutation. Unstable Isotope. When you take melee damage, a radiation effect may be created. This damages you and your foes. Unstable Isotope, once again, is used as a melee mutation. When you take melee damage, because you will be in front of every enemy, a radiation effect may be created. This damages you and your foes. It does damage you. but it also damages your enemies. It's definitely up to you if you want to use it or not, but just be careful because it might kill you. So from showing you all of those mutations, I hope I showed you on what is decent, what is good for what build, and what mutations you will want to use on what class. But guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support me, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Thank you and goodbye.